the four elements, water, air, earth, and fire, the four directions brought to us by the American Indians or the Hawaiians or the old mystics in Judaism or the Buddhists, they all use the number 4 as a mystical access to understanding creation. So you can't live without water, can't live without air, can't live without earth, can't live without fire, the sun, your heart.
You know, what we call biohacking now, it's living back in the day, except we got so disconnected from nature. Now we're like, wow, grounding's amazing. And getting outside in the first 30 minutes is really good for you.
And this introduction came about what is the definition of organic and what is healthy, and that's been part of my conversation, and then coupled with my passion for astrology, which has been a keyhole to let people be their real selves, like permission to follow your own rhythm, get really comfortable in your own skin, let authenticity be the ruler of your universe so you're not pretending or faking it.
Hi, my name is Aggie and this is Biohacking Besite. The one-stop shop for a modern queen, where you can find biohacking courses, self-growth courses, and where you can find the most incredible community of women so you can hit all of your biohacking goals and beyond.
I was just saying, yeah, like if we can just dive right in, and what will be the first, you know, people going to start listening to this podcast.
Well,
What they
okay,
could
let me begin. Yes, I'll just begin, and then you can,
Yeah.
because it's breaking up, but I'm going to trust you. So, um, I'm much older than I look, which is relative to your audience. I think that I didn't know what biohacking meant. I had to ask my team, which is much younger than me. I'm headed towards 70, and it's hard to believe, but I've been eating healthy, living healthy, following the elements since I found out that the four elements, water, air, earth, and fire, the four directions brought to us by the American Indians or the Hawaiians or the old mystics in Judaism or the Buddhists, they all use the number 4 as a mystical access to understanding creation. So you can't live without water, can't live without air, can't live without earth, can't live without fire, the sun, your heart. So these 4 elements have been very much in my awareness from, I want to say, my 20s. And so it's allowed me to biohack. And then you complement that. It's a funny way to say it because I didn't have that word. We didn't have that word. I'm in my late 60s. I didn't know what biohacking meant, but I've clearly been doing it. And
You
it's
just,
reflected in
it used
my,
to be called living, what we now call biohacking used to be called living, you know, because people would just be so much more connected to nature.
exactly.
You didn't have to do any of this. And now it's like, oh, like I'm going back to the basics.
Yes. So, but I would really say that as an astrologer who has been tracking the evolution of our consciousness around health, it started in the 60s where people started eating brown bread and they had brown rice, and we started talking about organic. We didn't know what that word meant. Like,
Yeah.
I've been alive during the time when it was
Organic.
super cool to have white bread and to eat Pop Tarts and to have Twinkies. That was like the good old days. And then this introduction came about what is the definition of organic and what is healthy. And
No,
that's been
it's not
part of my
working.
conversation. And then coupled with my passion for astrology, which has been a keyhole to let people be their real selves, like permission to follow your own rhythm, get really comfortable in your own skin, let authenticity be the ruler of your universe so you're not pretending or faking it, which, when I grew up, a
Yeah.
lot of us were pretending to be normal. That was such a funny, I always say normal is just a setting on the dryer, but I grew up with this concept of normal. And now the more unique you are, and that's what astrology is for, is distinguishing your weird traits. So
Oh no.
I love that we started this with your little Virgo saying, sorry for being late. When I looked at your chart, I was like, oh no, she's uber responsible, this girl. I could tell immediately that your responsibility is one of your primary identities, discipline and follow through and being really accountable for your word. Well, that's an astrological definition of a Virgo. That's what they do. And you're born at the very last day of Virgo. So you're a really strong Virgo. But your rising sign is Sagittarius. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh
Did you know that?
no, I thought it's the weakest day of being a Virgo because I'm at the very end. So I thought it would be
Quite
the
the
opposite.
opposite. It's the most mature. It's the most sophisticated. It's the most
Oh,
well seasoned. So you've really got thoroughbred Virgo in you, which is beauty. The feminine beauty is described by Virgo. It's the female who
oh,
refines her looks, not just on the outside, but on the inside. So back to Virgo, 29 degrees, very mature, sophisticated, seasoned version of yourself. And then you have something in your chart that's very unusual. It's the planet Saturn, which describes our purpose, our life lessons, our reason to be here. When you were born, it was exactly on the eastern horizon. And in astrology, whatever was rising at the moment of birth becomes the signature for a whole lifetime. And Saturn rules, once again, discipline, follow through, old when they're young, young when they're old, very serious, very responsible. So you really have a chart of like the goody goody. You got a bad case of goody goody.
It's fun. Yes, and it's also something I'm trying to heal because it's good in small doses, but it also
You
makes
have it
you.
on steroids. Like you're really built for a very responsible, practical desire to one, make people happy. It's in Sagittarius. It's the same thing as Blue, the fun factor, the funny person. She's also Sag rising, wanting to share wisdom as best you can, but you feel so responsible. Is that true?
It's very true, and I feel really exposed because obviously I think when people have bad experience with astrology is because a lot of people say they know astrology or they get an app, and you read something that doesn't exactly resonate, right? So you feel like, okay, it's a bit of a stretch. And to what degree am I manifesting these things because I hear that's what I am? Uh, but yeah, like it's really spot on. And I think the biggest lesson for me when people are like, wow, you're so intense and you want to get everything right and so disciplined, and you're like, oh, like you're too much. And I'm like, this is me being chill. You don't understand.
I know. So you you really came in with an excessive access to the
I love
responsible
that you
role.
call it access, not baggage.
Yeah, no, it's a gift. I mean, at worst, you would have knee problems. Do you have knee problems at all?
Knee problems? Not yet, but I have lower back problems.
So it's taking on too much weight. What that indicator, Saturn on the horizon at that spot on your rising sign, describes someone that takes on, you don't know when to say, I can't do it. You say, oh, I can do it. You're always the first one to jump in and do it. And that can provide an abundance of responsibility, but then the body gets tired, which you would never know because you're like, I can
Wow.
soldier through
Yes.
this. I can keep going. I won't stop.
Yeah, it's
One
fun.
of you.
So just to give everyone a backstory, because everything is so perfect on social media, but I'm getting ready to get married next month, and
Wow.
running two businesses, and trying perfect and da da da. I actually looked up a good wedding
I
date,
hate to
and
get
my wedding
married
date is
next
not a good
month.
astrology date, so I want to ask you what that actually means. But I fainted like last month, and I was just like apologizing to everybody. I was like, "Oh no, no, I can do this. I'm gonna be back to normal the next day." And I think, just like my level, everyone's like, "Aren't you feel exhausted?" I'm like, "I don't feel like I do." I thought I was being like taking it easy. So I feel like I don't have like a chill button. Like I can do a lot of things that are very intense, if that makes sense,
It makes total sense.
without
Yes.
understanding how much it exhausts my body.
Exactly. So what Saturn is like the soldier. It's like the grandpa that says, I can carry it, I can take care of it, I can do it. It's an old, wise being but it's exhausting to the body, even if your mind doesn't know it. So that's a really important thing for you to know that you go over and above what's expected of you. That's a problem if you don't know where the off button is.
Yes. And I think because it's really easy to glorify that. We live in a society that, like, wow, that's so cool that you do that. And I think I really like that about me. But now I see the shadow of it, which is, well, there's no self-care, self-love, because it's like you just want to keep going. Right. And so I think with every gift there is a shadow, and I'm just learning how to embrace it as well, right? And have empathy to that, who I am, but also know that it's not amazing. But, for the good part of my life until 35, I'm like, wow, you're so driven and you get to do so many things. And I was like celebrated for not having an off button. But now, as I step into more of my feminine, I'm like, that's actually not that good.
Exactly. That's very profound. And that is everyone in this room listening to this, you have a life lesson too, where life is stalking you by giving you a gift that can turn into a curse or a curse that could turn into a gift if only you could figure it out.
Yes. And so I guess that would be my invitation for everyone listening, right? We somehow, the stars align, and whoever is listening to this podcast is listening to it for a reason, right? So it might be saying, okay, we're talking about her stars. I'm not born on the same day at the same time, so it would be very different. But let's talk about, like, what does it even mean, the very interaction, and how we say the stars align and we finally met. I want to understand, how do we relate to other people, and how much of our interactions, whether it's in person or through a podcast, actually are written in the stars and it's predetermined.
I love that question. Well, first of all, there is a very strong faded part of our reality where you come in with lessons, you came in with those parents, you got that dog, your brother drove you crazy, your sister got sick. All those storylines that were woven into your tapestry are put there by destiny. And that is described, you can see it in the chart. If someone, I just finished doing a session, which I hardly ever do, for a woman who really had some heavy karma. But like you were pointing out, she took on the challenge. Yes, the stars were not in her favor. She turned those lemons into lemonade. And the chart can be described. You can look at a chart and go, whoa, this is not an easy lifetime. Or you can look at a chart and go, whoa, this person's going to achieve great fame. And it's right there in the stars. So I can't give you the technology or the code of how I wish I could, but I can promise you that studying your chart facilitates the acceptance of the destiny line that you got. Like you cannot get in the way of the first husband, of that kid, of that dog, of that job. Like those things are all coming. You may not, you may think you're in control of it. You're not.
Well, so that's a big question, right? So a lot of times where, I've been to, like, um what
Psychics.
is it? Psychics, yeah, that's the word. They Part of me is like, well, I don't want to know what's waiting for me. I would love things to unfold, because how much of it is like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And I think what happens when you read astrology and you feel like, oh, my stars say that I'll meet my partner in 5 years, so what's the point of going on dates now? I might as well just.
That's so funny. First of all, I don't do that kind of astrology because I have a master's in clinical psychology. I'm doing a psychological assessment of what did the soul sign up for. My question always in every reading I do is what did the soul sign up for? I don't tell you that on March 2nd, 2025, you're going to meet your partner. I mean, there are indicators that suggest when things can happen, but that's not what an astrologer is here to do. They're here to give you permission to fall in love with you, like to get to know you, to really have a relationship with you. That's the point. Very
That's
different than predicting.
100%. So, well, if someone, like, because obviously first reaction was like, where do I sign up? I really fall in love. How do you work with people on daily basis? Because obviously you said you don't do one-on-one sessions.
No,
I
I
because I've reached out to you in the past, and you said, sorry, Aggie, I'm way too busy for this.
well, I stopped because I have a company with 50 women. I know that you work exclusively with women. My whole company is all women. And we have a school. And twice a year in September and in January, the door is open and there's classrooms of 10 people each learning about their chart in a Zoom room with your chart comes on the screen and the person that's the mentor who I've trained looks at the chart and says, "Oh, look, Aggie, you have Saturn on your ascendant. You're an old soul who feels so responsible." And then you go, "How did you know?" So that's the class. The class is simply a 6 week class once a week where you study your own chart. That's my passion in this life is how many people can I turn on to simple, practical astrology? Because to your point, there's so much jargon out there. It drives me nuts. People talk astrology. I don't know. It just sounds like gibbery. I can hardly understand it. And I'm a professional astrologer. But my job every day is helping people learn how to be an astrologer. There's a lot of coaches and moms who have learned about their kids or learned about their husbands. And there's a lot of people who have made a profession. Like I have 23 certified astrologers that you can, if I do this thing called matchmaking, you send me your chart, Miss Virgo Sag, and then I look through all the certified astrologers. I go, this one would really get Aggie. And so I do this matchmaking game. It's one of
Oh,
my favorite.
wow. I'm almost scared to ask about my fiance because we're right before the wedding, so maybe it's better not to know if we're a match or not.
No, no, but you can't listen. I always say Cupid has no eyesight. She just pulls the thing back and hits you in the heart and you fall in love and she doesn't know astrology. She doesn't know whether you're compatible. That's karma. That's destiny. And there's lots of teachers that come along the way. If you find true love, you'll know, and you won't care what the chart says.
Oh, I love
There's
that's
a
super
big
cool
difference
insight.
between it.
Yeah, because it's like, isn't it funny that like a lot of us expect this perfect match, and sometimes on paper, I have some of my closest friends, and like cool, like we on paper we have like on co-star like we're 90%. I'm like, oh my God, I would never be able to live with you for 5 minutes, even though like because we're too much of a similar person in a way. I'll be
That's so
like, I would
funny.
hate to live with myself. I need someone who's opposite, is pulling me in the other direction of more flow, and just what my fiance does.
Yeah, and you know when you get along with someone, think of your best friend. It doesn't matter what her chart is. It doesn't matter what your fiance's chart is. There's compatibility based on karma. Like this is an assignment you've been given. This person is your teacher. Every relationship is built the same way. This person is your teacher to show you love so you can fall in love with the person, but
Mhm.
secretly it's so you can fall in love with you. That's what love is. Who's the person I'm around who likes me the most? Oh, that would be my lover. Great. Want to move in? But if the person doesn't get you because your frame of reference is different, that is compatibility. And that is described by astrology. And we do have astrologers who just look at this topic of compatibility with couples and say to somebody, look, you're someone that talks all the time and you're someone that doesn't talk at all. You need to know that's okay because that's not going to change. Or they
Wow.
both love to talk. And now how easy is it?
So that's, I guess, my a couple more questions. Number one, if I know that I have this very heavy sense of responsibility, like I have to single-handedly save the world and get 20 million biohacking. Uh,
Devices and tools out to the world.
yes, and so I'm constantly like, we need to do this, we need to help women like this, and da, da, da. And it just exhausts me. Is there anything that I can do to kind of like, how much meditation, ayahuasca, and coaching can get you out of this, and
There's
just
a sh
wake up
there's a
and say,
shortcut. There's a shortcut to that. Ayahuasca and meditation are definitely tools, but the real issue is called the observer. And the observer is the part of us, this is what astrologers do.
okay.
We step up and off the planet. We go into a neutral zone. I call it the 13th sign or the observer, where you step off the chart and you look over it and you study the chart and you go, oh, Aggie, you're prone to compulsive behavior.
Hmm.
Now, how will I medicine? How will I medicinalize? How will I adjust that? Well, I can do ayahuasca, I can meditate, I can do yoga, I can go study, I can take. But when you finally get conscious by your chart's description of what your name, like for so many years, I was a pretend extrovert. So you could drop me off at any party and everyone thought I was their new best friend. What they didn't know was inside I was like, can we go? Can we go? Can we go? I don't like this. Can we go? But you can never tell by looking. As the years went by and I really got to know my chart, I was like, I'm not an extrovert, I'm a fake. I can do that, but it's not authentic. And what's really authentic for me is going off by myself. And it took me years to figure out where I could get to my natural rhythm without the compulsion of satisfying my ego. So there's a difference between the soul or the observer or the 13th sign, call it what you will, and then the awareness that can say to your cute little ego, can you sit down, honey? You're trying too hard. And once
Yeah.
you figure that out, that's what the chart is for. The chart gives you the bottom note to what you promised. And then you become yourself. And then all of a sudden you feel so comfortable. And then you don't age. This is biohacking. Why am I not aging? Because I'm so Debra Silverman. I'm writing a new book. It's coming out next year in April. And it's called I Don't Believe in Astrology. But I really wanted to call it You're Fucked Up and I Still Like You. Because
I mean,
that was the name I wanted to use because everybody's fucked up. Right?
100%. And its definition of like fuck up, definition of success, like we basically stick to these interesting definitions when we realize like, is it really fucked up? Or maybe what we live is fucked up.
Exactly. Maybe societal's expectations that everybody be social. So I think part of it is learning astrology for me, because I'm so addicted to it. I'll be honest. One of my specialties, and this is in my new book. In my new book, I actually call myself out and I say, I got so sick of Debra Silverman. Every day I'd wake up and there she was. I was like, enough with you already. And then I realized, uh-oh, she's never leaving. Like, we had better establish a relationship. So that's what took me to astrology, was like, get to know me, fall in love with me, stay true to my rhythm, get me into the observer. So if I'm you and I know I'm compulsive and my observer goes, Aggie, you're doing that thing again. And no judgment, just a feedback loop, just an honest truth. Like, you are compulsively trying to help the world. You think you're a savior. That's funny, but it's true. And then the
Hmm.
observer kicks in, and you go, huh, I think today I'm going to go for a walk and turn off my phone. That would be
So
really big for you.
it is, and so when I work with my coach, we a lot of things that we do with her, just like realizing the driving forces and like allowing myself to rest. That's the biggest like trigger for me to say like it's I've done enough, and it's really
Bingo. See,
and
that's what I'm talking about. That's Saturn. He never stops working. But now
yeah.
you're aware of it. So your coach may, that's what astrology's for.
Yeah, and I think what's super special is that, it's very easy when you meet somebody and you look at them on Instagram and it's like, wow, this person's super cool, and I never be like them because maybe I'm not as extroverted. I'm not extroverted either. Like I call myself an introvert, extroverted introvert. I'm only
Exactly.
extroverted when I'm around the right people, and then the group is small, and then I love people. In general, people drain me. Like I hide from people, and people take it personally. It's like you never respond. I'm like, oh, I really love you, but it's so much of interaction. I'm suffocating. So I like people train me, but like in the most loving way, I need to recharge. So it creates conflict with my fiance who's extroverted. So he's like, I had a tough day. Let's go out and meet people. And I'm like, no, I had a tough day. I need to stay in. And it's just realizing that they're two different things. But I guess what I'm learning to embrace my own limitations, like maybe I'll never be extroverted, and that's okay too. Because it's like,
Exactly.
and I'll never be the chillest person on the planet, right? Like I'll perhaps will never be okay just being
No,
retired.
you have to work for the rest of your life. You're never going to be the girl who can just go shopping and that would be enough.
Yeah.
That's
So
not
I remember
happening.
that. Like we were just talking with my fiance the other day. We're like, oh, we have no plans for retirement. I'm like, I never want to retire. I know the next day I'll find something to do.
Tell me about meeting your fiance and how long you've been together.
So we met in 2017, but we didn't get together until 2020. Because we both were in different relationships. We had like really beautiful connection, but I said to him, "Oh, we must have been a couple in another life," because I was just like, "Wow, we're so compatible." But we're in another relationship, so you know, full respect. And then we both broke up with our partners, and 3 years later, when we both were single, he messaged me. I was waiting for this moment. I didn't think it happened in this lifetime. It would happen. So yeah, it was very
And then
romantic.
as soon as he messaged you, it was just full on.
Pretty much, yeah. I would be lying if I was cool about it.
And
Yes.
then what made you decide to get married? What was that decision? How did that come?
So we broke up last year because I feel like the relationship wasn't moving. Um, and so we were broken up for 5 months and I feel like I was trying to change him and he was trying to change me, and we were very much like, be more this, be more that. And we did a lot of inner work and then kind of go back together. It was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, I fully, true love is not trying to change you. So we came back much stronger, and that's when we got engaged. And we're like, we're excited now. But we basically had like, we were in love, like a typical in love. And then we got together, and over 2 or 3 years, the natural ego based relationship issues happened, which is be this, more of that. You know what I mean? Like a contract instead of just like, thank you for being a mirror to me and seeing where I'm not free. So once
Exactly.
we
That's so beautiful. And are you going to want to have children when you grow up?
yes, yes, please. Well, so that's my next question. So I did, when we were looking for a wedding date, I looked up, okay, this is his birthday, this is my birthday, what's the perfect date for the wedding? And then obviously I go to the place we want to get married, and all of the times that it's available, it's not in my stars. So I was like, oh no, does it bring me bad luck, or should I just say fuck it and basically just do what feels right? So we ended up ignoring, I guess, the chart. And I'm curious to see what you think. When you see something in your stars, you see online, oh, probably this is not the best way to get married, but to me, that's the right person. What happens? Or someone's like, I already got married. I looked up and it was on the wrong date. What do I do now?
Yeah, it's a secret. I don't tell many people this, so we're going public. I don't really think the date of the wedding has that much influence. The chart compatibility, that's a different conversation. I would really suggest to you to have a counselor look at the two of you and really support describing the uniqueness of your characters and helping you really accept. Because all women want to change men. That's just a universal truth on this planet. And all men want to be accepted for who they are and make it safe without having to have expectations. And we aren't very good at that. Just a truth, just one of those grown up truths. I always say women
Yeah.
are crazy and men are stupid. Women act out all these emotional things, and men are so dumb because they keep pushing the same button. So, having said that, the wedding date is not as relevant as the understandings of the dynamics of relationship. And you have a lot of planets in Libra. The idea of talking about relationship, harmony, compatibility, knowing how to make things even and fair is really important to you. Being conscious in the relationship is one of your most important values. Giving him a vote. But if he doesn't play equal, you're like, you have to go. If you're not going to play with me on my terms, on the same game plan, so you've got to be careful because you can get bossy.
Yes. Are you living in our house? That's scary.
It's one of,
I
it's
feel
one
very,
of my secrets.
I feel very exposed.
Okay, but no one else knows. I think the thing you want to acknowledge is you have a passion for justice and harmony. You can't stand disharmony. It makes you crazy. Your body gets unregulated. Isn't that true?
Yes. Oh yeah, very true.
You're one of those people that if there's a fight and it doesn't get ironed all the way out, it will stick to you. And you'll keep thinking about it and you won't be able to get over it. And he's like, didn't we already talk about this? And you're like, no, I'm not done. So that's important for you to know and important for him to know. She requires harmony at the truest level, or she'll feel like it's not a sincere relationship. And once you make a value in a relationship based on a chart, like I would say, if I was working with Aggie, I would say, listen, everyone in the company, you've got to stay with her and harmonize with her and make this fun. If it's not fun and you start complaining, you're going to lose her.
Yes. It's so beautiful. So how can we use astrology for business?
Yeah, it's so funny how your computer does this stop start thing. It makes me mad. Your last point you have to repeat
I
because it didn't come through.
yes. So if you guys are listening to this, we have some weird internet gods playing on us, and patience is not my virtue. So this is I am the inside of me and the perfectionism. Like I cannot believe this is happening during my interview. So I'm like boiling.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
So this is such good information. It's so good for everybody listening. This is like Mercury retrograde. When things go wrong, we have two choices. You can burn inside, you can get all irritated, you can find yourself arguing and getting caught in the, or you can just sit and go, oh, these people are going to be listening to a podcast with two really important people, women who have information for you that could change your life. However, we have a few glitches. Now, if you're a Virgo, that's enough to like and that's, but if you're a Sagittarius rising, you go, what's the teaching? Oh, that's right, patience. I could learn a little bit about patience. And that is always the opportunity in every situation in our life, whether it's a divorce or it's an illness or it's a breakup or it's a bad job. You have to ask this one question. And this is built in your chart. What am I supposed to be learning?
mm,
If you guys just wrote that down, all I ever ask myself is, what am I supposed to be learning now? What is life stalking me to learn? How can I get the lesson and get an A in this class, even though I don't like the class?
yes. Because it's like everything is happening for me, and I believe I attracted every single situation because my soul wants to grow. And so if I don't know if you know Kabbalah, but it's a lot about like coming from like a particular baggage.
Of
And so
course
my
I
team
know Kabbalah.
definitely being impatient. So I will attract situations over and over that are prolonged. So I finally get the lesson. And the more I resist, the more impatient I get. I'm like, okay, cool. Next one. Well, we'll keep on providing, you know.
Well,
All the
that's the best attitude.
yeah.
I'm impressed with your willingness to take life and let it do that to you because you're such a good student. You have 3 planets in the house of the student of life. Like you are studying this place. You're wanting to break the code. You want to let's break the biohacker code. That's really your function this life is to break the code and then teach us and give us the formula so we can then repeat the lessons that you had to go through the hard way and it gets easier for us. And that has been so much my life. Like I am so interested. You and I have the same life lesson. I'm born
Oh,
30 years after you.
wow. That's amazing. So my coach always says that like I'm such a perfectionist that even in relaxing and chilling, I'm gonna be the best. And she's like, you know, relaxing's about not being perfect at it. I'm gonna be the best at relaxing. You know, it's just like the overachiever, even in like
That's so
meditation.
funny.
So she told me I can't meditate because she's like, you're approaching it as another project to excel. So she's like, I don't even know what to tell you because even when you say do nothing, I'm like, I did nothing for 5 days. And she's like, fuck it, like I can't with you. Everything becomes like a
I love
competitive
that so much.
thing
I
for
did
me,
nothing for
right?
5 days.
Even
It's a
the
not easy
assignment
task
to
to
be
ask a Virgo to relax. That's just true. It's just not a, you're an unnatural mover and wiggler. And so I tell people when I look at their charts, don't try to meditate. You'll feel like a failure. You have to do hot yoga. You have to go for a run. You have to clean the house before you meditate. All that stuff has to get done or you're not going to be able to sit.
yes. You should see
I
me
got you
yesterday. I was
again.
like, I'm gonna meditate. I just need 2 hours to do laundry and scrub the floors, and then I can meditate because I can't do it in an environment that's not perfect because it's screaming
So
at me,
funny. It's just so
right? And so
predictable. It's almost funny.
if you can talk
I would just
really
say in
quick
the
about
name
Kabbalah,
of
because in
your
Kabbalah,
conversation
the
with
belief,
biohacking, if I always wonder about this, why aren't people that are my age, I'm turning 67 next week, why aren't they asking me why I'm not aging? Like I didn't do the Botox and I didn't do like what is it that made me stay young? And it's all for me about the book that I wrote called The Missing Element. It's genuinely knowing how to use water, not just drink clean water, but to get still and do nothing on purpose with guilt free cards. You and I aren't built for that job. I had to learn it too. The second one is knowing who your people are and talking to them and sharing your beans, spilling your beans, having your best friend. You've got to keep community close to you. And if you don't have a best friend, make yourself a best friend with somebody, stick yourself on someone. But we can't live without best friends, lovers, partners. It will shrivel us up. I'm promising you. Without air and communicating, it's just like not having water. You can't live without that emotional realm that has peace in it, or otherwise your system gets depressed. With air, it gets confusing. People that have bad air are like, I can't make any decisions. You have a little bit of this, the indecisiveness that has a hard time making decisions because you so want to get it right. So you wait. Is that true?
it comes up on every single chart, but I usually take super quick decisions. Um, to apparently to a fault because I really connected to my intuition, so I immediately know yes or no. But whenever they scanned my brain and they said you have decision fatigue, like you probably struggle with decisions. I'm like, actually no, like I make decision yes or no on the spot, almost like in business. Like I already know immediately whether I want to work with someone or not.
So you really trust your gut. Well, that steps over the indecisiveness. That's because you have an opposition in your chart. You have indecisiveness, the Aries. I mean, the Libra, you've got 3 planets in Libra, but right opposite, you have one in Aries that's super impulsive, super spontaneous, knows immediately, doesn't want to ask questions. You have that opposition in your chart. Feeling, listening, collecting,
But
and then getting it.
yeah, so I don't ask question. I'm like, should we do it? And I'm like, yes. And everyone's like, are you sure?
That's
I'm
a
like, yes.
superpower, Aggie. That is a superpower. That's one of your superpowers. It's right there in the chart. Yeah, and then there's earth people. And earth people, they get so caught in the details, the shades of you. They're so practical and they're so grounded, but you can't live without healthy food. You can't live without taking care of your money. In a perfect world, you'd be organized and have structure and routine to create safety in your environment and in your psychology so you can regulate your nervous system. But then people take it to the all the way over to like, I have to make sure that I meditate. I'm checking off my list, cleaning up, but they do it and they get grumpy. It's not fun
Yeah.
anymore because it came out of earth element, which is should, as distinct from, "Oh, I love doing this." So the water is the emotional body, the low levels depression, the high level is relaxing. Air, the low levels indecisive and lack of clarity, the high level is decisiveness and really good with relationship. Earth, the low level is being really scared about never getting it right and feeling insecure and feeling inadequate. And the high level is, oh, I'm really good at practicality. I can trust, like this is you, Aggie. I will always get it done. And when you get these comfort levels in the elements and you know that about yourself, it frees you up. And the last one is fire, which you and I both have, which is we get so excited over nothing. I'm so excited to meet you today. I couldn't wait to do this interview. And we don't even care if it doesn't work. We're still going to do it because we're so excited. That's fire.
Yeah.
The low side of that is they go eat too much and they work out too much and they spend too much and they go do ayahuasca and they just want to party. But the high level is what I said earlier. What am I supposed to be learning? That's what fire people are really supposed to do in this life. Be the blunt one that goes, you look miserable. That was the name of my book. You're fucked up and I still like you, but let's talk about where you're fucked up. That's fire people. They swear, they say shit, they're honest. And you and I both have this. That's the year we were born. It's our life lesson. How comfortable are we at being the one to say bullshit? How comfortable are you at saying that?
Oh, I say it all the time. Like I say it all the time. I was like, I call it bullshit on that. Sorry. Doesn't feel right. Yeah. Or it doesn't,
That's
yeah,
your
I do
life
it all.
purpose. That's your life lesson. So you're doing very well. It's obvious to me that you've had a lifetime already in these short years where you have cultivated awareness, spiritual consciousness, and you're applying it, Virgo, into the world. So you've got a million people watching you and talking to you because they can see you're real. That's not true for everybody. There's so many astrologers. I want to say to them, I'm
Yeah.
going to pull down your pants. I'm going to go look at your actual skill set and see how much you're getting paid for readings and see if you really are an astrologer or you're just flirting with it. And that's what my
Oh,
school
it's
is.
so interesting. So
My
we
school helps the flirtation person become a real committed astrologer.
I am so signing up for September, and I'm going to make sure that this episode gets aired in August, so it's close enough for people to get excited. So 100%. So you basically, we had air, we had fire, we had earth,
And
and
water,
we
how
had
about
water.
that's right. The four of them
Yeah.
are essential. In my book, The Missing Element, there's no astrology in the book. It's just the elements. So that's the entrance
Oh,
level. Just get to know, like, if your partner, so tell me again, what was his sign?
Jake, sorry, he's December 12th. I don't know what sign that is. Sagittarius?
Uh-huh, he's fire. He's perfect. See, he lights up your soul. Your Sag rising, that's your rising sign, and his sun is in Sag. So the rising sign is the soul. No one ever tells you that. That's why it's called the rising sign or the ascendant. So he lights up your highest self, which is blunt and like he lets you be wild. He listens to you when you swear and get pissed off. He lets that come
Yes.
forward.
Also, terrified because he's British, so he would never say anything direct. So he's always like, "Babe, what are you saying?" She's like, it's like, "Shh." But I
And
think he secretly kind of likes it because he doesn't ever say,
it's
like
just he's
exactly.
surprised. Yeah, he's so
Yeah,
impressed. So that's one of his gifts to you, and that's fire, and that's compatibility, and that's what astrology is about.
yeah, beautiful. So eh, okay, before even jumping onto, what if someone's just like, okay, I can't wait till the September. You know, as far as I was concerned, I can only, I have my one star sign, and now you're mentioning rising sun and the moon and this, and there's like seventh house, and it's so confusing. Like, what does it actually even mean? If there was like a super, super simple way of explaining the star alignment and what are these houses are and how a normal person can like somewhat follow.
Well, first of all, let's find a normal person. Once you get one of those normal people, I'll talk to them. But so far, I haven't met one. Let's see. There's a simple version of astrology is it's a code, it's a formula, it's a matrix that when you understand, first of all, just the 12 signs. If you're a beginner, start with just reading your sun sign. Then get my book, The Missing Element, and just get to know the elements. And then you go on astro.com. It's a free platform where you put your chart in. You go, what does it mean if I'm Sag rising? And then you Google. So to begin with, you're going to all flirt. You're going to fall in love with your astrology because it's so much fun to talk about you. What is more interesting than you? Nothing. And then you'll dive into that. And then you'll want to perform, like reach a level of mastery or sophistication. It's kind of like people come into the school in level 1 and they're in kindergarten. They like they know nothing. And then they get to level 2. It's only 6 weeks. The first one, they're like, whoa, I just opened up the key to Pandora's box. This is so exciting. Then they get to the second level where we teach them how to do a reading. Like at the end of level 2, you can actually do a reading and get paid. That's crazy. And
Wow.
I have broken it down that simple. So you're asking a very big question, Miss Sag Rising. They make everything big. Everything you do is like, give me the whole picture. But I can't because it requires you to get into the detail. But it's the interesting thing about astrology is it's all about you. What is more
So beautiful.
interesting than studying you?
100%. And I think what my favorite part, and I interviewed so many people. I've been doing it for a very long time and read so many books. No one has Chinese medicine talks a lot about maintaining your chi, your life force energy, and some things are depleting it and some things are nurturing it, right? Like boosting it. But what I'm hearing you said was that being authentically you and fully accepting and embracing the parts of you that are you because they're in your chart is what gives you that anti-aging biohack that you feel like at 67 you feel like you're like a fountain of youth. You really found
Every
the
single
fountain.
day, Aggie, every single day, I'm either in the ocean, in a pool, in a sauna, in a steam, in a shower. Every day, I devote myself to the cleaning of my energy, water. Every single day, I have to talk to somebody. My air requires an encounter with my lover, with my best friend, with my business team. I can't live without it. Every single day, I am eating food consciously. I'm asking myself, my body, what do you want? And usually she doesn't want very much. That's the other thing about not aging. If you can learn to live off mana and really live off life force without consuming bread and sugar and wheat in America, as you know, is so detrimental. Sugar is, but I tell people and they just keep eating it. So there's that. But anyway, so I figured it out. And then fire, if I'm not on my bike, if I'm not doing hot yoga, if I didn't have an orgasm, if I didn't have someone to laugh with, I'm going home because I'm going to go have fun by myself.
I love that. So eh, what are like some of the most like beautiful success stories that you have worked with people over the years, and how has astrology has helped them step into their power possibly?
You mean like when the husbands write me letters after they take level 1 and say, my wife was so depressed and I've never seen her happier? Or the story when the woman finally gets pregnant because she finally learns out that she has no water and she's got to slow down and stop to let her female energy be receptive? Or the time when the mom looked at the child's chart and said, wow, no wonder this kid talks all the time. Why am I criticizing him? I need to write the shit down that he says and stop telling him to be quiet. There's a million of them of where people give
Wow.
themselves permission to be who they are and their whole life changes. I can't tell you. I get gifts in the mail all the time because my school's not full of shit. I'm not just teaching woo woo. Hello, I'm not interested in that. Blah, 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 blah. I'm interested in the honest, authentic goods. Do you believe me?
Wow. What? Yeah, 100%. I mean, I just love how direct you are, but I'm thinking, what happens when some of the charts have a lot of shadow, or like some of the stars are a lot of shadow?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
there,
Listen, everyone has a sabotager. You have to know this. This is my new book. There is a part of the mind who's built to ruin your life. It talks shit about you in the morning when you look in the mirror. It tells you to eat the extra cupcake. It tells you you're never going to be in love. It tells you your relationships. I mean, it's real. Who pays that guy? I don't know. But he doesn't stop working. That's called the sabotager, and it's in the chart. You catch the little gremlin, you go, sit down. You are not in charge of me. And by the way, you're wrong what you just said. I am not interested in being alone. So be quiet. That's called gremlins, that's
Wow.
called saboteurs, that's called unconscious motives, that's called shadows that were put in place by your mom and dad, that's called heartbreak that your first boyfriend did. All that material has got to get unpacked. Part of our school is psychological. If we carry around the baggage, it's so funny. I wish they would just say to little kids when they're born, "You're gonna have a really hard time here. But as soon as you wake up inside the dream and you biohack," that's a new term, "you can give yourself back to the freedom. You can become your real self, and I promise you, it gets more and more fun." And then you get to wear pink Barbie shirts.
And also, like, I think so many issues,
You
obviously
look a little
so
bit
easy
like
for me
Barbie.
to see it in other people, but I see like, wow, if that person just had a little bit more self-love, they would eat healthier. Because if you really truly love yourself, you would move through the world very, very differently, right? And so I see that in myself. If I really truly loved myself, it probably wouldn't work as much because I would have this empathy of the little Aggie. I'm like, I think Aggie, you're a little tired. I think it's okay to go to bed, and relax a little bit more. And so it's like we all
Exactly.
have our
It's
own
so
baggage. For
true.
me,
That's coming
eating
soon to
healthy
your
is a little
neighborhood.
easy.
I promise. You're growing up.
The
I'm
book.
telling you something. You were old when you were young, and you're gonna be young when you're old, like me.
That's very true. I was very old when I was young. I feel like my entire 20s was so responsible. I didn't. I never went out. People are like, I would get like drawing. And I'm like, I didn't. I was working, since I was 18 years old. I
I
was like,
totally see that, yes. And there's people in this room that
yeah, so
don't
it's
have a
funny, but
right
I feel like
job, and
I'm
they don't
just
feel
getting
motivated, and they feel really tired, and they call themselves lazy, and all of that is a misinterpretation based on the gremlin sitting over there. You've got to get a rewrite, a reframe on your psychology, and that's what our school does. We're gonna tell the truth about your chart. It's not gonna be candy coated, but once you be kind, as you just described, the whole thing changes.
yeah. I cannot wait. I haven't read your book, but I'm sure it's on Amazon, and for everyone listening to us right now, I think this is such a good start. I'm really intrigued by the four elements. So the book is called The Missing Element: Inspiring Compassion for the Human Condition.
Yes.
Uh, and I feel like this is what you touched upon, even the enough water for the feminine energy. Again, very much Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, where we like born as grapes, we become raisins because women age because of lack of water, right? That's the idea.
Exactly.
So
That's
when you
exactly
said that, I'm like, it's funny because all of these ancient wisdoms align very similarly.
Of course they
And
do.
and then you get science and like, what's the paper on that? And like, oh no, just like 10,000 years of our ancestors testing it for, is that not good enough? That's the longest paper in history.
It's so funny.
When you
Yeah,
think
just
about
our
it, right?
ancestors who
Ayurveda or
lived in
Chinese
community and
medicine.
knew how to actually do live off the land. Remember that? Oh, you can't remember that because we live
Yeah.
inside these.
Yeah, and it's funny how one study that it's so tricky. I respect science, but it's not as perfect as it is. A, science changes all the time. B, some studies are founded by not so nice people that don't have their best interests in mind. And by the time you actually dig who paid for the study and whether, there's studies that say that sugar is good for you because they were founded by Coca-Cola. So like it's not as perfect of a world that we would like to believe, right? Like studies are great, but there's like that's knowledge, and then there's the wisdom. Like what do you do with it? Like what other cultures are saying, right? So I think it's really,
That's
and now there's
exactly
like
right.
big glucose knowledge, and people are like, oh, you have to go for a walk. And I see these scientists and doctors, you need to go for 30-minute walk after you eat. I'm like, there's a Chinese proverb from 3,000 years ago, go for a walk after a meal and you will live to 100. So I think you lost me.
I did, and it's getting frustrating. I think we've done it. I don't want to look. I love that you're drinking so much. This is so good. You're such a good example. All that liquid that just got in your body, this is a symbol of biohacking that people don't know
I
about.
Well, because I brought myself a whole jar, and I was like, by the time this interview's ended, I'm gonna drink the whole thing because it's early in the morning.
I love that so much. This is one of the secrets that has kept me so youthful. is
Yeah,
keeping the
the water.
water going and keeping liquid in my body. I drink fresh juices, freshly squeezed every single day.
Beautiful. Deborah, where can people find you while we still have a good connection?
It's just
What's the
simple.
best
It's
way?
3 words, Debra Silberman Astrology on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. I mean, it's so funny because I'm 100 years old, and what am I doing on all these platforms? I don't know.
You're crushing, and
I'm
I'm
helping. I'm doing everything I can to bring this planet back to equanimity. And it will only happen if you can regulate your nervous system. And how do you regulate your nervous system? By being kind. And how do you get kind? By falling in love with you. And if you can't figure out why you're so quirky, you ask an astrologer and she'll say, that's not quirky. That's uniquely you. Stop being mean. Sit down, gremlin. You sit right there, like that.
so profound and so simple yet so difficult to implement, right? That's
I
such a
know. Isn't that
beautiful,
funny?
yeah. Deborah, I love you. Thank you so much for your patience on this. I truly, truly appreciate it. I'm so sorry
I
about
hope it
the
worked out. If not, I'm happy to do it again. I definitely felt it felt just like Mercury retrograde, but we both walked because we're both so Saturnian.